This is the Big Fish Cares Podcast. Big Fish Cares Podcast. And here's your host, Benny Fisher.
What's going on? We got a really awesome show today. I am really excited for this one because this guy, I've been following him for probably, 3-4 years now and been friends with him, became really good friends with him over the last few years. And he's got quite a story to share, and he's done some quite amazing things with his career. And I'm excited for you guys to hear his story. My good friend, Alexander, welcome to the Big Fish Cares Podcast. Long time coming, baby.
Big Fish Benny, what's up, brother? Happy to be here. Good. Beautiful Sunday. Hanging out here in the Berg. Got a little hiking in earlier today. Yeah.
So Alex owns a remodeling company. They do kitchens and baths and basements. He's got a plumbing company right now that's thriving. He does a lot of real estate investing, and we're going to dive into all that. But first, let's get to know Alex and his history, his origins. Where did you grow up, Alex?
Born in Santa Cruz, California. Grew up in Sacramento. Early teenage years, migrated from Sacramento to Atlanta, and from there I just kept on ping-ponging around, but lived a little bit everywhere. But originally from California, rep the West Coast. West Coast is the best coast, I like to say it, especially while I'm out here on the East. But yeah, currently in Pittsburgh, been here for a while, love the city, but I'm a West Coast kid for sure.
So what was life like growing up, man? Tell me a little bit about your family.
Family's great. Mom raised me predominantly. She's amazing. Super hard-working single mother. Older brother was definitely an influence on me. He loved to kick my ass. He's bigger and older. Dad would see him on the holidays and summers. Me and him are now extremely close, I would like to say. But yeah, super hard-working mother, and grew up a lot of sports. Yeah, pretty much it.
What kind of sports did you like?
All of them. Basketball, baseball, soccer.
Yeah.
Never played any hockey. We don't really have hockey in Sacramento. Had to learn that.
You got all your teeth.
Yeah, definitely have all my teeth. They're pretty straight. Thank you. Thanks for the braces, Mom. Yeah, hockey, I didn't really learn about that till I moved to Pittsburgh and went to a couple games.
So how old were you when you moved to Atlanta?
Atlanta, I was about 14. So childhood was a little unique. Moved out on my own, 14 years old, from Sacramento to Atlanta, Georgia.
What do you mean by on your own?
Moved out, packed my bags, off I go. Brought the clothes that I had.
Like what? By yourself?
By myself.
Why'd you do that at 14? That's not very. It's not. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it was a unique situation. At home, once again, my mother was great. A little trouble with my brother. Trouble as a child, running the streets a little bit wild. Had conversations with my family, gave my mom a heads up. I don't think she really believed me when I told her that I was transitioning out of her home full time, until one day I really just bounced and packed all my bags and off I went. Prior to that, I was in and out of trouble, 7th, 8th grade, in and out of juvenile hall, making every mistake you could make. Got kicked out of school, kicked out of high school, junior high school, was just really in a bad place. So one day I decided, off I go.
So who'd you know in Atlanta? I mean, were you 14 years old? I mean, like, you couldn't have that much money, right? I mean, like, how did you, who do you call in it? That's on the other side of the planet.
Other side of the planet. So prior to my departure, I was already making a decent amount of money by selling miscellaneous narcotics and things of that nature. Started out with baseball cards. Started out with lemonade before that. Then I progressively graduated into a little bit of marijuana sales. Then we graduated into a little bit of cocaine sales. Then I learned about crack cocaine sales. And that was all at about 13 years old. My brother was a big influence in it. He would consume.
Was he older or younger?
3 years older.
Okay.
So he was a consumer. I have always been fascinated with making money. So I was watching how much money him and his friends were spending and kind of what they were purchasing. I personally have never used any drugs, smoked a lot of weed in my life, but I think watching addiction through him and my dad, I was always turned off by using them. Being as money motivated as I was, an entrepreneurial spirit, I saw an opportunity to start selling a little bit to my brother. And then it kind of just transgressed from there. So I'm
How'd
13.
your mom feel about that when you were growing up, like at 14 years old? I mean,
Well, it's like
that's not
13, but it was a
something the
secret.
average.
She didn't know. So it was like,
Okay.
yeah, it was
No clue.
no
She was
clue.
completely clueless.
She knew my
Wow.
brother was doing his thing, right? As far as like using.
Yeah. That's tough, man. What made you decide, like, why were you so money motivated at 14 years old? You don't hear a lot of kids being money motivated at 14. What do you think caused that?
I always was. Like, I never, like,
I know, but where do you, like, if you think back, like, where do you think that came from? Like, did you guys just not have a lot when you were growing up and you think you like wanted more? Is that like why? Or did you see someone else make a bunch of money? Like, where do you think that came from?
I definitely think my mom struggled, but she had a great job and she provided, like, we were comfortable for sure. We weren't rich by any means. She definitely worked.
Did you watch TV and like see somebody make a bunch of money? Because I mean, like at 14, like I never thought about making a bunch of money. So when I was 14, like
Yeah, I was always fascinated with though. I remember like I once went to see my grandparents down in San Diego, and my grandma had like a lime tree, and I was obsessed with like, can I take some limes with me? She said, yeah, I could have like 10 limes. I filled up like 2 grocery bags of limes, and we were driving back to Sacramento, and I was asking my mom to take me by the grocery store so I could sell them my limes because I thought I just came up and made a bunch of money. I was like 4 years old. Yeah, I always played sports and played outside, but like I'd rather go door to door trying to sell baseball cards or hustling some lemonade. Like that's just what I did as a kid. So
what was the most money? What was the most money you ever made selling fruit?
not very much,
think,
but
like back-
I had become I lucked into becoming a short-time ball boy for the Sacramento Kings, and I was a young kid. And
Really?
yeah,
How'd you get into that?
I used to be outside standing in the parking lot waiting for autographs every day. And
What year was this? Because I'm a little older than you, so I got to figure
back
out.
back
year
in
was
the
that?
Jason Williams days, white chocolate, and then it became Mike Bibby. So back with the Chris Webbers.
Mike Bibby, yeah.
Yeah, back when we were challenging.
Like 02?
Yeah, back when we were challenging the Los Angeles Lakers and Robert Horry and Derek Fisher.
Vlade Divac.
Vlade Divac. I heard he smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day and then went and played a game. It was insane.
Probably.
Yeah, and
so
back
like
with our-
you got on the court with the Sacramento Kings when you were young.
Well, it was crazy. So I would couldn't afford to go to the games, and if we did, we were in $5 tickets standing up top, and it was just me, and one of my neighbors would always take me. But I would always convince my mom to either let me go with my neighbor, or if he couldn't take me, I would convince her to take me up there after the game because the employees have to drive in and out of a tunnel. And I would like create signs. Can I get your autograph, Chris Webber? Can I get this? And I'd be standing out there, and like sometimes the players leave at like 11 o'clock midnight, and I'm this little kid that's probably like 6, 7, 8 years old at the time. And a lot of times they'll stop and they'll sign an autograph for me, right? But then they would see me every day because I would go to every game. And either my neighbor would take me and I would stand outside, or I might be able to go get a $10 ticket my mom would buy for me, or if not, my mom would do it. And she'd go sit in the parking lot and just let me be out there for hours, right? Once again, she'd work a job, 2 jobs, and then she would go support me doing that, really just trying to allow me to live the best I could. So one day, Lawrence Funderburk, shout him out, Ohio State Buckeyes. I reached out to him a couple years ago, honestly, because he made a big impact in my life. But he once was coming into a game. I was out there before the game, and he was like, bro, what's up? Like, you don't have a family? You don't have a dad? Like, you're out here every single day. Like, I'm worried about you. Because he had seen me so many times. He told me to jump in. He was driving a Mercedes. Jumped in, went down into the tunnel. They were playing the Lakers. He got me a seat right behind the bench where they were playing. After the game, took me over to meet Kobe and everybody in their locker room. And I would always have a backpack with basketballs, and whoever's coming, I would have like blank 8x10s hoping to get somebody's autograph. So he took my backpack and gave it to me at the end of the game, and everybody had signed everything. From there, kind of built a relationship with Lawrence. And then one day I won a drawing out of like everybody at the arena, won a drawing that you could be ball boy for a day. Won the drawing. He already knew me, so there we go. So fast forward.
Do you think the drawing was fixed?
Maybe it was fixed. It worked out for me. But I started getting like game worn shoes. I would ask him for game worn shoes. So I got Chris Webber.
And then what? Did you flip them on eBay?
No, I was going to card shops. Yeah, so I would go to card shops. So then I started heading up card shops on the weekends, and I'm 8, 9, 10 years old, putting up a couple $1,000. And then with that, I just started.
Wow, would you listen when you're? I can't imagine. So I have an 8-year-old son, Sammy. I can't imagine if Sammy came home from school and showed me $1,000. Like I would like.
My mom would take me, so she would take me to the card shops on the weekend, and she'd see me in there wheeling and dealing, and I'd get a couple $100, and then I'd buy some sports.
And what'd you do with the money? Like what would you do with the money?
Buy a lot of sports cards, and that was like all you guys are in the sports.
Just keep flipping.
Yeah, and then I transitioned from that to drugs because I saw I could make a lot of money, and I kind of matured and got turned out by my older brother. So, but my initial
So what? So I want to dive a little bit deeper in the sports cards because I'm a sports card guy, or was. I don't do it as much anymore, but Gary Vee was a sports car guy. Lots of entrepreneurs back, our age, from 30 to 50, back when the cards were popping in the late 80s and 90s and early 2000s. We hustled sports cards a little bit. So tell me, what was the most amount of cash that you had at one time from like just dealing sports cards?
probably like $5,000 before I was 10. I pulled a
Wow. And so you would only ever buy more sports cards. Like you never went out and bought, did you like ever go out and did you have a bunch of Nike shoes? Like, did you buy a bunch of like
No.
stupid stuff or like, so you were just saving, like you
Yeah,
were like
every once in a while
saving.
I'd buy like a bike. I was in like
stacking.
BMX biking and stuff. Back when rollerblades were cool, I'd go like buy an expensive pair of
All
that.
right. I'm trying to put myself back in there in California, young
Yeah.
Alex hustling because I know how hard you work now, and I can just imagine like how. And then you had that.
When teams came from out of town, one time, this is a true story. This was when I was in my prime, so probably like 12 before I transitioned to the streets. Yao Ming had just came to the league, was the biggest thing popping, right? And I would learn what hotels the traveling teams would stay at. And once again, I'm a young kid. And I'm a young kid that can pretty much do anything that I want. My mom's great, but I had a lot of freedom. So found out the hotels that they're staying at. And just like at the arena, I'll wait outside all day, all night. The bus shows up. If someone's signing autographs, it's hard to say no to me. And I'll like weasel my way from the back of the crowd to the front. So I got like 5 or 6 Yao Ming autographs in a 2-day period. And I had them sign all basketballs because I get a larger return on a basketball or a helmet or something in comparisons to a card or a photo, right? So then I got smart because at the games, they have silent auctions where they auction off the autographs, right? So I started coming to the games. I'd either get them at the shoot around or at the hotel prior. I'd come with an autographed Yao Ming basketball. I also got a couple autographs at the pregame shoot-around from them. So I had like 3 or 4 signed Yao Ming basketballs at the game.
They're hard to carry around, though. That's the only bad part about balls. I mean, 8x10s.
I had a buddy of mine, but I had little shopping bags, right? Little shopping bags.
All right.
And they had a silent auction, and I think it went for like $1,500, $2,000 for the Yao Ming basketball, right? So I was over there hustling the people that were losing on the side, taking $500, $600 a piece. I think I walked out of there with like $3,000, and I was like 12 years old.
Wow. That is, I mean,
Then I was
that's pretty cool. So, all right, let's fast forward. You start doing a little bit of the drug thing because your brother, and then you probably you're getting in some trouble for it. I'm assuming. Is that what you were getting in trouble for? Is that why you?
I've been in trouble.
Is that why you left?
I've been in trouble a few times.
Is that why you? Is that why you left for Atlanta?
Reason I left for Atlanta, I was in trouble with the law a little bit, but I transitioned into getting into the streets, as I would say it. And things got really hectic really fast. So I was like 14 and, there was a lot of violence and I was out there dealing with a lot of people that I shouldn't have. And between the police and other problems, my best friend, his sister had lived in Atlanta, Georgia. Back to being the entrepreneur. So back in the day, you could buy a pound of weed in California for $4,000 and you could sell it for $16,000 in Atlanta if you broke it down to quarter pounds. So things were extremely hostile in the Sacramento area, and being the entrepreneur that I am, I could get the plug for a discount, charge a lot if I get it out here. Next thing you know, I jump on a Greyhound and off to Atlanta, Georgia I go. Never been in my life. Showed up with a duffel bag of clothes, a pound of weed, and a pistol. So at that time, I'm like 14. Yeah, wow. 14 and a half.
14 years old, and you had to buy a gun. Wow, you bought a gun and everything. So when you would get in trouble in Sacramento with the police, like what was that like? I mean, they don't put 14-year-olds in jail, do they? I mean, like what do they do? Just send you back to your mom's house, or like what do they?
No, they put you in juvenile hall for sure. Okay. And then they got CYA.
So what was the longest? What was the longest you ever spent in like juvenile hall when you were a kid?
I don't know, month or 2 months.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What was that like? Your first time?
Sucked. Terrible. Yeah, very long time out.
What were the other kids? What were the other kids like in there? Just as bad?
Yeah, for sure. Troubled, right?
Yeah.
And you got a lot of built up energy and stuff, especially in like younger kids that are going through puberty and just angry and lost, don't have parents at home. So for sure, a lot of fighting, things of that nature.
So when you went out to Atlanta, like you never went back, or
To Sacramento.
like you just stayed out there? Yeah.
So I transitioned back a couple years later, popped in and out of Sacramento, but I didn't like going back because it was like extremely violent, and I didn't want to. At the end of the day, I didn't want to die, right? So, yes, I would pop in and out of Sacramento. I'd pop in on my mom every once in a while, but for the most part, when I transitioned away, like I've never really looked back to Sac for sure. I still don't like going back there to this day. It just gives me bad vibes.
And did you ever go back to school? I mean, like when you did you like you were just done with school? I'm assuming.
I got my
right?
GED
Like,
in prison.
You just didn't you didn't enroll like in Atlanta high school.
No, yeah, I got my GED in prison for sure. I've said it to you before. Some go to Yale, some go to jail, some go to Penn State, some go to the state pen, right? Instead of college debt, I've got my own personal debt that I've paid. But yeah.
So what was the journey like from Atlanta to Pittsburgh? Like how, like what, I mean, you moved to Pittsburgh. I mean, how old are you now? You're 34,
34.
right? 34. You moved here, what, when you were 30 probably, right?
I think about 29. I think I've been here 5 years.
29. So like what was the journey from like 14 to 29? Fill me in on some gaps between Atlanta and Pittsburgh. And then I want to dig into like what you've been doing in Pittsburgh.
Got it. 14 to 29. Daughter's born at 17. Go to prison at 18. Do 3.5 years in prison. Come home at 22. I went to prison in Oregon. Paroled to Portland, Oregon. Had no family.
Well, you got in trouble in Atlanta. You got trouble in Atlanta, and then went to Oregon for jail.
I had warrants in California, Georgia, and then ended up getting arrested in Oregon.
Wow.
Went to prison in Oregon. Got extradited to Atlanta and convicted out there as well.
While you were in prison for another crime.
While I was in Oregon for 1.5 years in prison. They called my name, told me to roll up my bed and everything. Then I pack all my personal stuff, and they put me in a van.
I think you were getting out.
I thought I was. No, I knew I wasn't getting out. I knew I was going to get extradited. I thought they were going to put me on a plane like Con Air, right? I was thinking like, oh, this is about to be Con Air. I got like a 3.5 year prison sentence. I'm about to go on a little vacation. I was a little excited, right? And next thing you know, they put me in a back of a van and in the van, it's just like a regular little construction van. They've got 2 metal benches on both sides, and they put a black box around your waist and they shackle your ankles. And they're legally allowed to drive you 17 hours. And then every 17 hours, they have to put you in a county jail to house you, to allow you to sleep. And then they're allowed to drive another 17 hours. And like every 5 or 6, they would stop to let you use the restroom. And they just pick people up around the country. So like they'll hit little towns and someone will get on the little van. And then next thing you know, somebody else will get on and then they'll drop someone else. And it was a 5.5 day trip. So I thought it was like a vacation. It ended up sucking a little bit for sure. But I did.
Yeah. Did they feed
you? They did. Yeah. So I had like a cheeseburger and shit, and it messed my stomach up because I hadn't eaten processed.
Were they nice? Were they nice to you? It was like the driver probably pretty cool, right? I don't know.
No? Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, that's a crazy. I mean, listen, I'm fascinated with it. It's a very fascinating story. I know that you've learned a lot through that, and I feel like it's always important to tell some of the struggles in life, because the adversity that you've overcome has been nothing short of amazing to figure out where you're at now, and I can't wait to get into that. But so after that 3.5 years, what happened after that? Because that puts us like around 22, 23 years old.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is like the transformation though of prison though. So like I got to speak on that just for a second. Like going to prison is the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because it gave me an opportunity to really, losing everything that you have in life makes you appreciate life on a higher level, or it does the opposite, right? And a lot of people go negative with it. But I like to tell people all the time, if you have been through a traumatizing experience, painful experience, made mistakes in the past, if you're able to channel that negative experience into positive energy, then you have an unfair advantage over the average person. Because if you could use that as fuel, then you will work harder and put in more effort than the average person. So, going to prison, I was in maximum security, and seeing people that were doing life and never coming home really put things into perspective. At the same time, my best friend got killed in Atlanta, Georgia. So a combination of those two things really changed my perspective and mentality towards people, towards life, to kind of help who I am today and as I'm continuing to grow. I also got baptized 6 months before I came home from prison. I like to make sure that I put that out there. So Come home from prison. I'm now 23 years old, paroled to Portland, Oregon. I had no family support, no people out there. Ended up staying in a halfway house. Had to go to churches to get canned food and socks. I got a job interview at P.F. Chang's. So I got some clothes from a church, like 4X slacks, and I've never had a job in my life. I brought a letter of reference from the Department of Corrections. So I worked in the kitchen. This is a true story. I worked in the kitchen at minimum security right before I paroled. And I took like a job course, because you could take courses in there. Like, you can do things to better yourself if you want. So I took a course. They're like, yeah, you get job interviews. We practice job interviews. So I got a letter of reference written from the Department of Corrections, and I took it with me to P.F. Chang's, and they hired me. So I was like home 20 days, living in a halfway house, got hired as a dishwasher. So I came home May 20th, 2011. So say it's middle of June, right around my birthday, and got my first job. Dishwasher, P.F. Chang's, Portland, $9 an hour. I then went from dishwasher to executive chef in 11 months. My salary was $50,000 a year, and I thought I was rich for sure. And I was still in a halfway house.
Even though you probably had, I don't know, what was the most cash you ever had from back in the drug days? Like, what
I
was
had
the
a
most
lot,
cash
but it
you
wasn't
had?
like the money would come and go. So I had a lot of money, but I never saw like $1 million.
You were excited. You were excited about a $50,000 regular paycheck. I'm living the regular American
I remember
dream,
telling
man.
my boss, I was like, he was like a mentor to me. I had a couple mentors. They always told me, Alex, you're super rough, but like, you just got so much fire and drive, like, and they invested a lot of time in me because they saw how hungry I was, right? And it was genuine. But I remember telling my boss, I was like, I got mortgage money, brother. He's like, not quite yet. And then I ended up taking over a restaurant in Seattle where they paid me $75,000 salary. Then he called me. He was like, all right, now you got mortgage money, bro. I remember that. So, but my parole officer, I remember going in to see my parole officer because I was still on parole at the time, and she cried tears. And she was like just telling me how proud she was because, like, it's a rare case that people make a positive transition coming home. She was like, fucker, you make more than me. And excuse my language, but yeah, she cried tears, and that was a big moment for me. But just to touch on it one more time before we get into the other part, if you're going through a negative experience like that, like, you can make positive changes. You just need to put in the effort. And a lot of people say, oh, I'm a felon, I can't get hired. I'm a 10-time felon. People don't want to... If I go and apply for your apartment, you're probably not going to rent to me because my background's going to pop up, right? But now I'm a landlord. So, like, don't use that as an excuse. Yes, you're probably going to have to work harder. Yes, you're going to have to put in more hours. But when people recognize that it's genuine and how hard you're willing to work, opportunities do open up, right? Yeah, and I couldn't do it without.
Who had the biggest impact on you from the time you were a child to the point that you got that $75,000 job at the restaurant in Seattle?
Well, I mean, I think that all kind of varies from where I was, right? But clearly, like, my mom.
If there was one person that you could say, man, they were really there for me, they believed in me.
My mother.
You think that? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I met your mom. She's an awesome person. So that was
for sure.
So that's cool. So tell me about after the restaurant job, man. $75,000 restaurant, because I know you're not in the restaurant business anymore.
So
what happened after that?
So I had 3 years of parole in Oregon. Once again, I got extradited out of Georgia. I had charges out there as well. They ran my parole out there consecutive. So as soon as I was done with 3 years of parole in Oregon, I had to move to Atlanta, Georgia to do 4 years of paper out there. So this is 2004 at the time. Mind you, I haven't been back to Georgia since my best friend got killed, and I'm no longer in the streets. And
that's crazy. They want to go, but they want you to go back into the community where you basically didn't want to go back to that's what's messed up with the government. Like, they could have just kept you in Seattle, said, hey, we'll just transfer his parole, he's doing good out there. Like, why would they take a chance, bring you back into maybe your old surroundings, and that just doesn't even make sense.
I could have probably petitioned the courts and hired an attorney to be able to stay on the West Coast.
Yeah, well, you ain't got that kind of money. You're only making $75,000 a year. That thing would have cost you $10,000 or $15,000.
Right, and I was also just another opportunity. So I go to Atlanta and get another chef position. This time I start getting in some fine dining, and prior to this, I've never cooked anything in my life. I could barely make macaroni and cheese. So now I'm an executive chef, but as my girl likes to say, I'm more of a kitchen manager than an executive chef. I got a couple dishes that I could make, but I'm really good at running.
You made some amazing meals. You made some amazing meals at my house. I'll never forget that Thanksgiving that we did here, man.
Benny asked me to do it.
We did that turducken.
This man convinced me to do a turducken. We thought it'd take hours. 24 hours later.
We were up till 3 a.m, stuffing that bird, and then it took another 30 hours to cook it.
I hope you're able to like add the images from that evening when you air this thing out.
Wow.
Uh,
So you went to fine dining in Atlanta. What happened after that?
Fine dining in Atlanta. Was able to start like creating menus and really developing menus, really understanding food costs. But the chef story is I learned business, right? I learned how to manage a staff. I learned how to manage my labor numbers. I learned how to manage my food costs. I understood what a P&L was. We were having monthly meetings with my market manager and really looking at numbers. We're doing $6 million a year in sales for the restaurant. So that's why I learned business, right? Like I was a hustler before it. I was an entrepreneur before it. But that's where I got exposure to some corporate kind of establishment where I could really understand numbers. That being said, I also understood that working 100-hour weeks as a chef sucks. And it's extremely hard. And I still got some chef buddies out there, and God bless them. But it's a very demanding, high stress, high intensity position, right? And had a lot of great times, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. So now I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm betting on some football games, turned 1,000 into like 40,000, betting on football games just on the side, and all legally, of course. And I had like 2 years left on parole, and I went to my PO and was like, you remember you said if I paid my restitution back, you would let me move back to Oregon, because by this time I'm burned out on Georgia. I want to get back to the West Coast. I want to go back to Oregon. He's like, because I'd been home so long and I don't violate, like I haven't done anything since I came home from prison. He was like, not only will I allow you to go back, but I'll petition the judge to terminate the rest of your parole. And I had like 2 more years on paper. So I think this is 2015 or 2016. I was asking for a travel permit to go to Florida. I was going to take my daughter down to Miami. He said that. I said, I no longer want the travel permit. Like, how do I pay it? Because I owed like $25,000 or something to the state of Georgia. And he was like, here's the Western Union information. So I'm going to Western Union right now. Left, went to Western Union, shot 20-something thousand to the state of Georgia. 2 weeks later, like, they canceled my parole. I then drove straight to New York City. Spent like 4 days in New York and went dining a bunch of places because I've always wanted to go to New York and had never been. But I knew I was going back west. So before I drive west, I drove to New York. I had like a 2008 Mercury Grand Marquis. Drove into Manhattan. Thought I was going to park. I rented a hotel and just thought I was going to like let them valet my car. Yeah, all right, buddy. You're going to go drive 4 blocks, pay $100 a night, and they're going to stick your car in an elevator and shoot it up 30 floors. That was a learning experience. Now I will never drive my car into Manhattan again. But that was it. So then I shot back west. I'm in Oregon trying to figure out what I want to do. And I had no idea what I want to do. This is my first time that I've been legal and free in my entire life. So I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. I ended up transitioning from Portland to the Oregon coast. On the Oregon coast, once again, this is my first time ever being free. My mom had just recently retired from her job. I was helping her out. We bought her a house, which was an REO on the Oregon coast in Depot Bay, Oregon. Smallest airport in the world. My mother
Did you call it an Oreo?
In Oregon. No, an REO.
Oh, in Oregon.
Or REO, real estate owned. It's a bank owned property that they had taken back from somebody that had defaulted. So it was a distressed property, and
gotcha.
Bought it for my mother, and it was distressed. So I had no contractor experience. I've never swung a hammer in my entire life. So what do? Try to call a bunch of contractors. I can't hire anybody. I got 30 grand for a roof. Nobody will come put it on. Needed flooring. I couldn't get a flooring company. So I go to Home Depot, which is an hour away because we're on the coast. We have to drive into Salem. Go to Home Depot, and I pay them, I don't know, $50,000 or $60,000 for siding, flooring, roof. It was extremely expensive. During this time, once again, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I decided I was going to go be a commercial fisherman in Alaska. When I was in prison, I really liked the show Deadliest Catch. So now that I'm free, I pursued it. Met somebody on Craigslist, went and interviewed in Seattle. Next thing you know, 2 weeks later, I'm flying up to Alaska. I'm going on a boat in the Bering Sea. So prior to that, close on the house, and I hire Home Depot. And I pay for everything. Leave my mom and brother out there. My brother's older. Leave them out there, and I get on a flight, and off I go. I have no phone service. So I was up there for about a week, phone service, went out to fish in the Bering Sea, sockeye salmon out of Bristol Bay. Fly home 7 weeks later. House is done. Hardy siding. It was all plank siding. New roof. LVT flooring throughout. I did not have them replace the soft subfloor, which I should have. Now being a contractor, like I didn't understand like how problematic it is not replacing it. Mind you, we don't have a basement, so I'm in a crawl space trying to like shimmy it up because I cut corners. But I asked my mom. I said, how long did it take? She was like, oh, there was about like I don't know, seven guys here for about a week. I don't know, a couple guys here for about 3 days. Being the guy that I am, I went and looked up what material costs are and saw like, oh, a piece of Hardie's kind of cheap. Roof shingles kind of cheap. Ran some quick numbers. Someone made a lot of money. That's when it kind of clicked for me. So put this house together. I then convinced my mom to let me sell this house. And I went and fixed up the rest of the stuff because I saw an opportunity. Because once again, I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, where she was probably like, where am I going to live?
Right, but I'll make sure she has a great spot, right? So I had to get her to buy in. She bought in. I then went and painted the cabinet. She was helping me do some of the stuff. My brother was helping me. Then he bounced and kind of left us hanging. And I put it up for sale. Go under contract. I'm all happy. Building inspection goes through. My agent sends it over to me. It's like thicker than the Bible. I read it. Oh my God, everything in there is wrong. The deck I built in the backyard wasn't the code. You name it, what was wrong was wrong. So the buyer's backed out. My agent's like, you got too much stuff wrong with it. Like, I suggest we take it off the market, get it fixed up properly, and then we'll go from there. So like, I had paid somebody to build the deck. They built it wrong. It wasn't the code. Bunch of things. So took it off. I was overwhelmed. I then decided to go get a job in construction because I realized, well, if I'm going to really try to flip houses and do something on the investment side, because I decided I'm a house flipper now. Bought this house. I'm now a house flipper. I know everything. I knew nothing. But
you were never going back to fishing, right? Is that you just went to fish for 7 weeks and came back, right?
That's it. Made some money. I want to fish, still want to fish, but it's not the best decision.
Oh, I got you. I was just curious.
Yeah, just went and hit it for a season. Realized what real hard work is, right?
I've heard.
That's really hard work. Shout out all the guys out there. Extremely hard work. But during that time, I decided I was going to go flip houses, right? And I thought I knew what I was doing. I knew nothing. I did know that if I'm going to flip houses, I learned quickly that I'm at the mercy of a contractor. So if I'm going to learn it, if I'm going to do this, I really need to learn construction because I knew nothing. So I went and got a job as a laborer. It's like my P.F. Chang days. I went from Atlanta making around $100,000 a year as a chef to now I want to be a house flipper. I went and got paid $9 an hour to labor on new construction. And I had to drive from the Oregon coast to Salem, which is like an hour and 20-minute drive one way. So now I'm making $9 an hour, and I'm carrying 3/4-inch subfloor every single day. I'm carrying the lumber. And the guys would laugh at me because I'm like running back and forth to move the lumber. And the guys were like, what's up with you? They were just talking shit. And I let them know, like, this is, like, I really plan to make this my career. My job is to make your job easy. Your job is to teach me. Let me know what you need from me. I got you. And I would run. And I would literally put as much as I could into it to where I'm exhausted at the end of every day and repeat the process the next day. Because all I want to do was learn. Because in my mind was, I need to understand it to be able to manage it. Like, I know I'm not the best to come out here and swing a hammer because I haven't been doing it very long and I'm not a handy man. I do need to understand the process to be able to manage it. So fast forward, I sell that house. When it's under contract, I now have about 6 months into construction. I left new construction, went to remodeling because I'm flipping houses.
So wait, you sold your mom's house?
Yeah, so when it's...
Did you get it all fixed up? Or?
Yeah, so I fixed everything. Took me about 6 months. Got relationships.
You fixed it yourself?
I leveraged the relationships that I met working at the construction.
So hustling all the planks. You said, "Hey guys, can you come over and help me with my mom's house? I'm in a little bit of a jam."
Hey, we're on the Oregon coast. I'll pay you on the weekends. Help me out. I built some relationships, right? It's all about relationships.
Yep.
It's all about relationships. So I added value.
Is key.
Built relationships, right? And then I asked them for favors. And favors, I'll still compensate you, but they helped me fix the deck. We rebuilt the deck. We rebuilt everything, right? So now I'm under contract to sell the house, and I decide I'm really going to give it a shot. I'm going to try to go flip houses full time. This is what I want to do. Oregon coast is extremely small and expensive. So I started looking on Google and on the internet. Highest return for a distressed property. And what came up was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Tampa, Florida. I just lived in Atlanta, and humidity I'm not a fan of, so I didn't want to go to Tampa. Michigan is just... sounds super cold and never heard of Grand Rapids before, so I passed on that one. Really why I picked Pittsburgh is you guys have sports teams, which I've always been into. Like, I like good entertainment. And it's a 6-hour drive to New York, like a 1-hour flight. Decent sized city, and it looked like a lot of opportunity. So decided that before the house closed. That's winter of 16, because I believe I arrived here like January 1st or 2nd, 2017, and loaded up a 26 U-Haul, put my 2008 Mercury Grand Marquis on a trailer, and off I go. Never been to Pennsylvania.
Did your mom come with you?
She went to New Mexico.
Okay.
So she transacted.
You sold her house, right? Did you make any money on her
sold
house?
Her house.
Like,
yeah, we made some money. We didn't make much.
How much did you come to money. How much did you come to Pittsburgh with, if you don't mind sharing? Like, how much cash did you have saved?
130,000.
So you made 130,000 fishing, working at construction,
everything,
saving money, because you're not much of a spender. I mean, you are now a little bit, but like that's just because I've been pressing you for a couple of years now.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. That's impressive, man. So what'd you do when you got to Pittsburgh? Because this is where the story gets really good, folks. If you've been listening, that was the background to where like this guy just shows up in Pittsburgh. And I love the story from here. And let's keep it really high level because we don't have that much more time. We got about another 20 minutes. And I want to have you back on the episode, though, to like go deep into like house flipping and what it takes and all that stuff. But let's keep going with this story because I think it's really awesome, man. I'm really proud of you.
Appreciate it, bro. So get to Pittsburgh, and I rent a short-term rental in Mount Lebanon, if anybody's familiar. And I didn't have a place to live, so when I was driving out here in the U-Haul, mind you, the U-Haul broke down on the way.
Who's gonna rent to you, man? I would have rented to you with that record. How'd you get around?
Nobody
that?
would.
How'd you get around that?
I got a month-to-month short-term rental where they didn't do background checks, and it was in Mount Lebanon of all places.
Guess you could always just pay cash too. Like, I mean, what are they going to say, right? You know, if you just hand them.
Yeah, I definitely paid up front. Paid a month. It was like $1,300 a month for a one-bedroom, and I pulled into Pittsburgh with the 26-foot U-Haul towing a car into Mount Lebanon. Mind you, I'm from the West Coast. I've never been on tiny little cobblestone streets in my life, and I show up in the middle of January. It was an absolute nightmare. So I get into the place. I instantly start looking for houses. Mind you, I flipped one house, barely made any money, made every mistake you could make, and now I think I'm a house flipper. I think I'm a real estate investor. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know nothing. So I'm out here. I'm looking for houses on the MLS because I don't know about off-market acquisitions. I don't know about wholesalers. I don't know about hard money, nothing. So all I've heard about is Lawrenceville, make money in Lawrenceville, right? So look up a bunch of houses in Lawrenceville, super expensive. Mind you, I only have 130,000. So I find a house on 57th Street. What I don't know is the prices from 40th Street compared to 57th Street. Value changes $400,000, like drastically. I'm thinking because this is technically Lawrenceville. I'll buy it for 77, put 50 into it. That's 120 of my 130. Sell it for 400. Oh, I'm gonna make so much money. What I thought would be a 3-month process turned into an 18-month process. What I thought would be a $200,000 profit. I ran out of money, had to get a job because I couldn't afford to fix it. Sold it for a loss, and I probably lost 60 grand on the deal. I'm fortunate that I was able to sell it.
Wow. So basically you did all that. You worked for a year and a half on the house pretty much by yourself, I'm assuming. And then
by myself.
And then you lost money on it. So what'd you do? You said you lost 60 grand?
Yeah. So I subbed out all the mechanicals. So electrical, HVAC, plumbing.
So let me get this straight. What? So you had 130 in your bank account and now you had 65 left in your bank account after all this work and you sold the house?
Roughly. So I ran through the 130 and I still didn't have drywall. But I ran out of money. So I had to go get a job. Not only to fix the house, but to feed myself.
Wow.
And then I had to work,
get a job
right?
At?
Industry public house.
So what is that? What is that?
I went right back to the kitchen to where I had a good resume.
So it wasn't a construction job. You went got a
No, I had to go where I could make real money. I couldn't go take another $12 an hour labor job. I went and got a chef job because I could run a kitchen, right? So went and got a job that paid me good money and took every dollar that I made and dumped it into the house.
Just worked at nights and weekends or whatever, I guess.
As soon as I made enough, I left the chef job, went and worked with the construction company. Working with the construction company, I started building relationships again. Built a relationship with my buddy, Jason Ferretti. And the game kind of changed for me there.
So what? This
same
is
thing I did in
what,
Oregon.
18 and a half, right? Like 2018, between 2018 and 19, huh?
So this is like end of 2017, beginning of 2018. So
wow.
I meet Jason, and we're working on the same company. Same thing. We naturally become friends. I talk him into come helping me in my house. Kind of the same process as back in Oregon. But we become extremely close.
At least you didn't sell many fruit baseball cards.
Yeah. While this happens, I convince him to come start this company with me. Like, we're making this money over here. We're working for this guy. We're kind of understanding what the process looks like. There's a big need in construction in Pittsburgh. I'm getting out of this house. I'm finally caught up on the house. I've saved enough money to be able to kind of make a transition and made the jump. And that's when I opened Pittsburgh Property Remodelers. So I believe that was winter of 2017, but I didn't really start doing any business until 2018. And then I had to convince Jason to come join me because I couldn't do the construction without him. So he said he was all gung-ho for it, and then when I was like, all right, it's ready to go, he kind of backpedaled on me. So I went and sold a job. Oh, yeah. So then I went and sold a job. I went and sold we converted an attic, and I think I sold it for like $25,000. Long story short, the man got the greatest deal of his lifetime. I lost so much money on it. Thought it would take 4 weeks, took like 12 weeks. I made sure Jason got paid every single week, though. I absorbed the loss on it for sure. And that was it. That's how we got started.
How much money were you down to after that loss? That's 2 losses in a row, man, and you don't have much left.
Yeah, I had probably like 50 or 60,000 liquid.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's when is that when all the Facebook Live started again? Like, is that when I started seeing you on Facebook Live? Like, you were literally recording everything on Facebook Live.
So that's when the Facebook, I needed to figure out how to get jobs, and I didn't know anyone, and I didn't know marketing. I didn't do social media prior to coming to Pittsburgh. I met a guy by the name of Greg Barr. Shout out Greg. I'm still really close with him. I talked to him today.
Man. Good Christian man.
Love
Greg Barr.
He's a great man. Sends me scriptures every morning, actually.
Yeah. He sends me one like every 3 months. I'm like a little, I must not be in his inner circle. But every once in a while, I get one and I was like, somebody must be talking about me. Why is he sending me this verse?
That's funny. Yeah, he's a great man. But I met him on one of his projects. First investor I met out here. And I ended up opening a Facebook. So then I looked him up. And then I got the smart idea of I'm going to friend request all of his friends because he's a big investor, so he must know other investors and other people in the industry. So I started friend requesting all these people. And I knew none of them. And some would accept me and some wouldn't. And then once I saw a bunch of agents accept me, I did the same thing. I then started looking for every real estate agent. Anybody that was a real estate agent in Pittsburgh, I friend request them. And then I started going to little networking events and anything that I heard about. And I would see another investor, and then I'd friend request them. And then I would friend request their friends. And then what I did was I just started posting every single day. And mind you, I've never been on social media prior to this. I was a chef. I was a gangster. I was in prison.
It was hilarious, bro. I remember tuning in. Somehow you friend requested me. I must have been in your circle or something. And then I started watching you on there, and I'm just like, who is this guy? And again, you were talking. I mean, you talk like pretty normal now, but like you were like. You were rough. Remember, like that one guy said,
yes.
You were like a little rough.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, but it was entertaining though. And you kept showing everybody what you were doing. These houses were gutted. They were down to the studs. It looked disgusting in there. And you're in there just with your camera and you're having a good time. You're like, this is what we're going to do. And I'm like, I'm mesmerized. I remember laying in bed like at 6 a.m. and you'd start posting and you'd be like, Home Depot, Home Depot, Home Depot. And I would just be like, I would sit there and watch this guy on my phone, literally day after day, week after week. And I'm thinking, this guy's outworking me. This guy's hustling, man. This guy is moving. Who is this guy? And I was like, wow. I said, that's kind of when I first, I remember messaging because I had a customer that needed, that wanted some bathroom work done. And you shafted me on an appointment. I remember I was so mad. I was like, man. This guy, he's like, he doesn't know who I am. I could get him so much work, and he just blew me off. And I was,
I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed.
It was a cool story, man. So tell me a little bit more about the journey with this flipping the houses and the construction business, Pittsburgh Property Remodelers, because I want to wrap that story up, and then I want to get into how what you're doing now.
Got it. So. Once again, I wanted to be a real estate investor, flipping distressed properties. To do so, I felt the need to control construction. That's why I opened a construction company. Once I opened the construction company, I saw I could make some money doing it. A lot of people do shitty work is what it comes down to. There's more demand than there is good contractors, period. So I didn't know how to get jobs, so I just taught myself social media and figured if I showed everybody that every morning I'm up at 5 a.m. and we're doing it 7 days a week, you can't tell me I'm not doing it because I'm showing you. So then I got that's how I built a lot more relationships. And I started flipping some houses and learned more. I built a lot of relationships, so I learned how to run comparable properties, and people taught me about the market, things that I didn't know. I added a lot of value. Shout out Urban Capital and Arch. I learned a lot over there. I remember I met my man Dan Constantino at an event. I had heard he was the money guy. I came to him and introduced myself.
Was that at Ryan? Was that at Ryan's event that flipped Pittsburgh?
It might be. I'm not exactly sure where it was. I did go to those a lot.
Yeah, I went. Yeah, I feel like we all met each other like right around
the same time. I went to Dan though and told him, I heard you're the man with the money. I would love to borrow from you in the future. If you need a contractor on a flip, hire me. I'd like to show you how I work. Hopefully we can do business together in the future. So he hired me. I gave him a love shot, and I like to think we did a great job on the project. I'm sure he sold it and made some good money. And then when I completed that, I asked him to lend me some money on one of my projects, which he did. And from there, built a natural relationship. And then he's the one that exposed me to rental properties. I didn't know anything about certain.
Yeah, if you get Dan Constantino, he was a guest on episode 14. If you guys go back, you can hear his story. It's an amazing story, but keep going on about what you learned from Dan. Because I mean, the relationship between you and Dan, and I know Dan was the first one that really believed in you in Pittsburgh. I feel like hardcore, go into business with you, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's really impressive, because Dan's as square as they come,
But you say it the best. Like, relationships are everything, and add the value. So I added value on the front end, built natural relationships with people that were playing the game already, and then started asking questions. Because if you're adding value and someone's friends with you, they're going to want to see you be successful as well. And if you're putting in the time and energy, like, people are going to want to help you. Now, if you just come asking questions with your hand out and you've never added value, nobody's going to give you the time of day, right? But working my way through all of those channels, I've built a lot of really strong relationships. So Dan taught me about rental properties. Same thing. Bought a couple rentals, partnered with him to refi. Now we're selling a couple of those rentals, and we're both on to bigger and better things, and we're still working together, and he's a very close friend. But that was my transition into construction, real estate. I like to think I'm buying a lot better deals than 57th Street these days. Not saying I don't make mistakes. I still definitely make plenty of them. But yeah, 7 days a week, it's still real estate and construction for me.
So now you're doing, I don't know if I had anything to do with this, but, I feel like you're doing like retail kitchens and baths.
Oh, 100% from you.
And I remember, and when you say you asked a lot of questions, listen, folks at home, if you're listening, this guy asks more questions than an 8-year-old. Okay. The dude, I thought Sammy asked me a lot of questions. Alexander never stopped. It was question after question after question. Hey, bro. Hey, can I come to your office? I just want to hang out for the day. Hey, bro, can I do this? Hey, can I do that? Hey, what do you think about this? What do you? It was like nonstop. And here's the thing: I'm a sucker for that stuff. When people ask me questions, I love chatting about things that I'm doing, and not a lot of people ask. There's very few people in my company. I always say that would ask me a lot of questions. The people that did are the most successful people at Big Fish Contracting. Guys like David Heisen, Ed Brown, Mark Kania, those guys that ask tons and tons of questions. I love pouring into that because I don't know what people don't know. So I don't know what to talk to them about. So when you ask a question, I can give feedback. And Alex was not short of any questions.
So Dan was my big influence in real estate for sure. Contracting, hands down, Big Fish Benny. Benny reached out to me out of the blue on Facebook, bought me dinner. I blew him off a couple times on quotes because I was just drowning in work and didn't have support, and I should have gave him a better heads up. But he tried to get me on a couple projects, which I kind of blew him off. Still took me to dinner. I remember we were sitting in some fancy restaurant, and he was over there cussing and spitting, and had a Rolex on, and I was like, oh, I love this guy already. And then from there, we just naturally built a friendship. But contracting wise, I was observing and kind of watching how he maneuvered. So I would start asking questions, and a lot of times he was extremely busy. I remember in that room that you're currently in, he stayed up I was complaining that he wouldn't spend some time with me. Well, I didn't know he was too busy. I just took it personal. Bro, I've been asking for your help. You can't help me. You can't help me. Why can't you help me? I was pressing him. He we started at 10 p.m. and we were in the room he's currently sitting in until about 5 o'clock in the morning until I tapped out on him because he was going to just continue to go.
That was just about that was probably just about
that was about a year ago.
Like
yeah.
Yeah. Well, now that you're selling retail, I told you, you can't be working because you were doing a lot of work for other investors.
Yes.
And I kept telling you, those Pittsburgh investors, man, like they don't like to pay them. They don't like to pay a lot. They don't care about quality. They don't. It's rough. You know what I mean? You're treated like a commodity. And at the end of the day, you want to give value, right? And there's people out there that need good work done, and they're willing to pay you a little extra for it. So no, it's been awesome getting to know you, and a lot of times, I'm one of those guys that kind of I'll meet the person where they're at, and just to try to make sure that like you don't think I'm too good for you or like too like because I really saw a lot of value in you. The fact that your hard work ethic to this day, like I am like still mesmerized by that. And I always thought I like to take risk, man. You go all in on these properties and the investments, and you shove all your chips into the middle. And I don't know if it's because I'm older now and I'm like 41 years old. Like, it's like I don't like to gamble like that anymore. Man, you just keep shoving the chips in and you go all in. And I remember walking a house with you that you just finished up. I think your Airbnb in Pioneer. And I've done a few roof jobs for you. You don't give me all of them, but you do give me the hard ones that nobody else will do for you. So I appreciate that. But some of the masterpieces, I mean, your creativity on some of these houses. Why don't you talk for a couple minutes about what you're up to now with these Airbnbs and what you're doing in Pittsburgh?
So the Airbnbs are fun for me. So still investing in real estate, trying to buy some more rentals, flipping less. Yes, doing more customer projects because we take a lot of pride in our work. We're not perfect, but we strive to be. And it's a lot more rewarding working for a homeowner that really appreciates your work than just being another turn-of-the-mill contractor for an investor. That being said, there are some great investors out here, and some of them do pay really well. But on the investment side and creativity side, I was actually with my lady today. We went to some Frank Lloyd Wright tours. Super inspiring every time we ever do that. So I'm a big fan of art. I'm really into art. A lot of it I incorporate into the properties. And doing these Airbnbs, it allows me to be extremely creative. So I view these older distressed homes kind of as my canvas. I love getting them gutted, and then I'll spend the weekends in there. Like I'll stop by 5, 6, 10 times and just walk around there while it's gutted and just listen to music and kind of walk around and just take a look and kind of like see the space, how I can kind of visualize it. And then watching it come to life is an amazing thing for me, and it's very rewarding. So I like to think building houses or remodeling houses is my form of art. So on the Airbnb side, it gives me an opportunity to spend a little more on the rehab, get a lot more creative, and now having people that go and stay there voice their appreciation for how you decorate it or how you build it or how they use it is extremely fulfilling to me. So I'm enjoying it. Definitely a lot.
That's awesome, man. Your story is so inspirational. There's a lot of people out there listening that sometimes they think they get stuck in the rat race, right? They can never make any moves. I mean, just to hear your story from, fruit to baseball cards to get mixed up with some of the wrong people and selling drugs to, making restaurant moves and going on an Alaska fisherman charter to flipping houses without any idea what you're doing, moving to Pittsburgh because you thought it was the best rehab market, to like flipping all that into a bunch of stuff, starting your own contracting company, keeping that rolling, moving to retail, doing investments. I mean, I know you started a plumbing company. We didn't get to talk about that really, but at the end of the day, what would you say to the people out there listening that want to do something with their life? How would they just get started?
Life is super short. So like, don't take it for granted. Like that's number one, right? Like we're all blessed to have an opportunity, especially like to be able to wake up and start a business or a company. Like, first of all, we're very fortunate for that. To speak on how I bet all in every time what you say, I heard a great quote, and I probably won't say it right, but the man that burns the boats takes the island. So, like, that speaks on the guys that are going to come to war and take over the island, like, and they ride in on their ships. They burn the boats out there because retreat is not an option. So that's how I perceive anything that I do in life. I think anything that you're doing, you should give it your all and try to be your best. A lot of people, when I was on my Facebook trip, thought I was super arrogant because I like to proclaim I'm the best or trying to be the best. Doesn't mean I'm trying to be better than you. I'm just trying to be the best version of myself, right? And that's in any aspect of life. So if you're trying to do something, one, realize life's only going to be what you make it. So if you have a passion or something that you want to try, why would you not try it? Like, why would you just continue to live a mundane line if you think you have more opportunity out there? And if you make that commitment that you are, then you better give 110,000%. You say it all the time, relationships are everything, right? Consistency is key. So add the value to people that are already playing the game and build natural relationships because they'll become a resource for you. And then you just have to stay consistent. I still make a lot of mistakes, but I show up every day, right? I show up every day and put in the same effort. And over time, you're going to be able to make traction.
What's the next move for you over the next 5 years? What's your goals?
Trying to figure them out right now. I toured more Frank Lloyd Wright houses today, and every time I do that, I think about how can I do things on a bigger scale and be more creative. Because right now I'm doing a lot of volume, but it's not as fulfilling as I would like it to be. I do want to get into development, a lot of like super custom development. Don't know if it's going to be Airbnbs. Shout out my boy Brian Bursick from Hemlock. I've been talking to him about it. I'm going to partner with somebody on some new construction.
Oh, he just dropped Brian Bursick. He was episode 6 on the Big Fish Cares podcast.
Yeah, shout out my boy Brian. Yeah, I want to get more creative on the building side. Real estate is going to continue to be my passion, right? I'm going to continue to buy Airbnbs or vacation properties in areas that I love, short-term rentals, construction.
If you don't mind sharing, how much property do you have now? Because you went from we heard the story. You know, you came over here with $100,000. What are you up to now? What kind of value you got?
I got over 30 units currently, 30 rental units. Some of them are short term, some of them we're selling. Shout out my guy Dan. Some of those I'm selling. I actually have a closing tomorrow. I don't think I'm making any money on it, but selling 7 units tomorrow. Yeah, I got a house out on the Oregon coast. We've been looking at something that.
Safe to say he's got a multi-million-dollar portfolio. He's not going to brag anymore because he's not that guy. I'm going to brag for him. I mean, this guy's made quite the come up over the last just 3 or 4 short years with, just a lot of hard work. The fact that he just went and worked for someone else just so he could learn. I mean, I tell people that every day. I always tell people I could stop being the CEO of Big Fish Contracting. I could walk into McDonald's tomorrow and I could run it all the way up to where I'm like district manager over like 15 of those places, probably in the first year. Just starting at the fry machine.
Yeah, the biggest thing is working for good people, building good relationships. But the other part is utilizing your time to educate yourself. So I knew nothing about construction or real estate 2016. I immersed myself in every Bigger Pockets podcast, everything on YouTube in regards to real estate and construction. If I'm in the car, I didn't listen to the radio. I listened to a audiobook. I listened to a podcast. Only time I listened to music was in the gym to keep my heart rate up, right? It's like, it's terrible to try to listen to a book while you're working out. If you guys do that, God bless you. I could never do it. Or you're not working out hard enough.
My mind wanders. As soon as they say something profound in a book, all I keep thinking about is how can I put that into action? And then I miss the next 3 chapters.
So I didn't know any of the terms. Like you said, REO, you didn't know what it was. So when I first listened to real estate books, I didn't know any of the terms. So I would take a little note. And then after I listened to the audio, I would go look it up, understand the definition, and then I would listen to it again. So then I could comprehend what they said. But if you want to make moves in a very short period of time, you're going to have to put in the time, right? So stop listening to music and start educating yourself because it's free. Everything's free. I got my GED in the penitentiary. Like, it is free.
Yeah, I mean, he's in Pittsburgh now. Listen, he didn't go to Penn State. He just went to the state pen. You heard it here first on the Big Fish Cares podcast. Alex, I appreciate you being so open about your story. I know it's something you've wanted to share for a long time, and I wanted to be the one to kind of make sure that you had a chance to tell it your way. And I know that, there's a lot of people in life that, think people don't deserve second chances. There's lots of people that think people deserve second chances. And I think for sure I'm really proud of the man you have become and the man you are becoming. It's an honor to call you a friend. I will go to bat for you any day of the week. So if someone has anything bad to say about my man Alex, come see me first. And there's 5 questions I ask every guest. And here we go. What's your favorite restaurant?
In Pittsburgh or anywhere?
Like imagine this. You're going to an island and you have to live there forever. And you got to put a restaurant right on the middle of the island. What restaurant are you going to put on the island?
That's tough, buddy. I'll take.
Don't overthink it.
I won't take a restaurant. I'll take the Malkin steak from Hyde Park, medium rare.
So Hyde Park. So you're putting.
I'll just
Hyde
take
Park,
the
'cause you
steak.
go and order that thing every day.
Yeah.
All right, we got to go to Hyde Park. I got a gift card anyway. I got to use it. All right. So on that island, you're allowed to take a book with you. What's book are you going to take with you? One book.
The Bible.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, and then one movie. You're allowed to take one movie with you.
Blow.
Sometime you can take the boy out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the boy. Anyway, all right. You're allowed to go on one vacation. You're allowed to go on one trip. Where are you going? You're a traveling
Backcountry
man.
in
You've been a lot of
Jackson Hole,
places.
Wyoming.
Jackson Hole, Wyoming. All right. And you're allowed to spend the day with one person. It could be past, present, future, alive or dead. Who is it going to be? 24 hours.
Lindsey Grice.
Ooh, he's in love. How about that? There we go. You're too first on the big. Any news about that? Anything happening in that relationship? Anything we need to know about? Is there any dates set? Anything like that going on?
It's Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Well, Alex, thanks again for being here. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Hit up the Big Fish. He knows where I'm at.
What's your email address?
info@pittsburghpropertyremodelers.com.
There we go. Cool. All right, everybody. Thanks again. And we'll be back next Friday for a new episode. Please like and subscribe if you got value out of here. Add some comments below, and we'd love to answer those. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Big Fish Cares podcast.